Hello, this is Hatmoza. I have a follow-up video for my last video that was explaining the first-person view theory and how I thought that how I concluded that the person that was killed by Negan had to be coming from the survivors that were captured by Dwight and placed in the van. So that pretty much leaves Daryl, Michonne, Rosita, and Glenn. Now, my theory was pretty much based on the fact that the first person view was the same person throughout the video. It's possible, but there's some video evidence that shows that it could have been the perspective of each person in the van. And I'm just going to go through the images right here one more time, just so you see that the first person views, there's 4 of them throughout the episode in the van, and they're all from different angles, even distances. And here we go. See, this is the very first one that shows in the opening scenes, and after further analysis, you can see that whoever this is very close to the door, and you can almost kind of say that the blurriness is from the hair. It looks like somebody's hair, and we know Daryl was the closest one, and we know the angle that he's looking at through hair, or whoever's looking, is kind of to the left of the van's door. And the next one right here, that's kind of centered, more clear. It's not that fuzziness. It doesn't look like the person has hair covering their face. And this one, where you can see the hand, which I will circle right there, it's also to the left, okay? And it's a little further. The distance is a little further. And the last one here is the furthest. So, going back to them one more time. Why it's possible that I think we were looking through the perspectives of each person in the van is because of how the angles are shot each time. And it's funny how the more you look at something, the more you notice new things. So this pretty much throws out the theory that Glenn is the likely victim of Negan. And the reason why I looked back at these images is because Robert Kirkman, or I think it was Scott Gimple, one of them, I forget who, said it's impossible to figure out who the victim was. You can look at it as much as you want. It's impossible to figure out just by watching the episode who was killed by Negan. So that made me reevaluate some of the scans or some of the screens I took. Here, as I mentioned, you can see that it's blurry, and who, besides from the fact that the lights were just turned on, and when lights flashed in your eyes, suddenly it's kind of blurry, but we know Daryl's injured. We know he's weak, so that would explain the blurriness. We also can see what really looks like, it's hard to spot here, but you can see little threads almost as if hair is covering the first view. We know Daryl had his hair covering his face when the door was opened. Alright, so another thing is, compared to the other screens, this looks like it's at the left side, not as centered as some of the other first-person views that we see. And we see it's the closest. This is pretty close to the front. Whatever's in front of the van gate that's obstructing the view of the 4 people captured, this is definitely the closest person to the door. And then we go to a clearer view. This is about I want to say a quarter through the episode. We see this first-person view, and it's definitely not, well, I don't want to say definitely, but it's very likely that this is not from the same angle. And if it's the same person, I doubt the same person would be jumping around the van from different angles looking. This is pretty close to the van door. It's pretty clear. It's pretty centered. And based on my previous video, we kind of established that this would be Rosita's point of view. So this view, if it's anyone else, is probably Rosita, which will explain why in the next few slides, or the next few screens, why we can see this kind of same person view but at a distance, and there's somebody in front of them. Here is the third first-person view, and this is kind of at the same angle where the first screen was, where we think, or I'm predicting, was Darrow, but it's kind of further away. And I kind of said last episode, not last episode, but last video, that because you can see a hand right here, and I'm like, that's something Darrow would do, and it's funny how I kind of dismissed it, but that would make sense if we're looking at Michonne's point of view, which I'm predicting this is Michonne right here, because she's, later on you see her against the van next to Darrow at a further distance from the van door, and it would make sense that that hand's Darrow's right there because he's in front of her. So this one and the first screen are kind of at the left of the van, which leaves the very last one right here, which is the furthest, and you can definitely tell that's the furthest away. Out of everyone we've seen right now, this is the furthest. And again, whenever I use this iPad, I can't see the head when I'm doing this, but there's a head somewhere right here, and I'm in a dark room, I can't even see right now, but there's a head right there, definitely a head. And the door opens, and you can see that, which looks like Rosita's head, is in front of this person. And we know in the order of the people in the van that Glenn was in the back. So, if we are to believe that we are looking at the perspective of each of the four people in the van, Scott M. Gimple, or Scott, was it Scott M. Gimple? I call him Scott Gimple, was correct. That there's no way we can predict who the person was that got Lucille. Thank you, and if you want more of these videos, please let me know in the comments.